morning again. The topic is making aspirations in the presence of great beings. And this topic is very relevant because we have with us great beings, right? The relics of great beings being exhibited in level 2. No, I can just flip it here. Okay, thank you. So in the same building that we are relics of great noble beings. These are beings, through their own practice, have achieved the state of Arya. Arya means noble, right? We who have not achieved the state of an Arya state, we are called Potujana, not Putumayam. Potujana, that means whirling. That means we still keep on rotating within samsara. Once you come to the state of an Arya being, at the lowest form is what you call Sotapanna. At most, you get reborn 7 times. But if you have achieved the state of an Arahant, you are completely released from the rounds of rebirth. So upstairs, just 2 floors above us, are the relics, the bodily remains of beings that have found complete release. We also have the relic of an Anagami. Anagami is 3rd stage of sainthood. And when they pass away, they go to a special plane of existence for them to gain release. But the reason why Kabain Sayadaw remained as an Anagami is only because he had the aspiration to be a fully enlightened Buddha. So if you become an Arahant, you're completely released from the rounds of suffering, and therefore the opportunity to be the Sammasambuddha is not really quite there. So he wants to be able to cultivate his qualities so that he becomes a Sammasambuddha. That's why he's there at an Anagami state. And there is also another relic, which we say the relic of a Bodhisattva. We say that the relic of the Bodhisattva, but because it's somebody who is very precious to us, he's actually our teacher. Our late chief, Kesari Dhammananda, we managed to get 2 fragments of his relics. When his body was cremated, we managed to get 2 fragments of his relics. We borrowed. It would have to be returned. And the late Venerable Chief Dhammananda was really a Bodhisattva. He actually does it for everybody. Even when he's unwell, even when he's sick, even when he's got a bag of medicines with him, the moment when he's asked to give a Dhamma talk, he will just go. He doesn't think about himself, you know. He will just go to serve. And a real heart of a Bodhisattva. Speaking Dhamma in such a manner that opens up hearts of people, regardless of what religious affinities you might come from. Okay? So go upstairs, please pay your respect to the great beings. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this type of exhibition of relics is very rare. The last time we had was in 2001. And the purpose of this relics exhibition is, number 1, to give thanks for the completion of our new center. And the second thing is to pray for peace and harmony within the Buddhist community and country. And we do know that if there is no peace, nothing can move. Imagine if you're within your own family, if there's no peace and harmony. Within the husband and wife, father and mother, within the children and parents, if there is no peace, it is very hard to get happiness within the family. So the purpose of this relics exhibition is just to pray for the peace and harmony, that may peace and harmony comes into our own personal lives. May it also come within the organization that we're in. And in BGF itself, there must be peace and harmony within the core, which is really the EXCO, the executive committee, as well as working together with the subcommittees within the organization. And also peace and harmony within the entire Buddhist community and country. Okay? As I mentioned earlier, please don't take the presence of the relics lightly. What you have before you is something really special. For those of you who had the opportunity to go up and meditate, you can see how quickly your mind settles. It's amazing. The quietness and the serenity that you get. Somehow, when you put the relics together, it creates such a powerful, you might say, energy, a kind of a wonderful force that if you just want your heart to settle, it settles so quickly, so beautiful. And it is also an opportunity for us to make aspirations. So just don't view the relics with your eyes, but please see the relics with your own heart. Open up your heart. As we venerate the relics, think of the spiritual journey that these noble beings that have gone before us, the path that they have taken. And because they have also reached the destination, they inspire us that if we follow the same path, we too might be able to receive the destination. That is what it brings inspiration to us. Otherwise, we may say, oh, the Buddha teaches all these kind of things, all nice teachings, well and good. But what is the result? Here you have the testimony, almost a tactile testimony, you know, something that you can actually see before you can even touch. But of course, please don't touch. But it's right in front of you, and it actually says that there is the roadmap, there's a path that we can follow. All right? What is an aspiration? An aspiration is a strong wish to be in a desired state. Okay? You plan a wish in a desired state. Is that the same as desire? Sometimes we say, oh, Buddhism talks about desire. When the Buddha says desire is the source of our suffering, you're talking about the sensual desire. Trying to feed our senses all the time. The desire for good and nice things for our senses. That creates problems for us. The other one is the desires for our ego. That's the other one. But when we make an aspiration, this is nothing to do with sense desire or the desire for ego. Because this is an aspiration for liberation. Of setting aside ego, of ego completely disappearing. All right? And having an aspiration that's important is like having a magnetized needle. You know, the Chinese were the ones who invented the needle. The compass. So with the compass, they could navigate even at night. They could sail in the oceans. That was an invention from the Chinese. And somehow when the needle is magnetized, it will point only in one direction, and there's a northern direction. So have you magnetized your life? You magnetize your life with an aspiration. You have aligned yourself towards liberation. If you have not done that, then you'll be just wandering. You'll just be kicking around like kicking a ball in the football field with no goal, with no goal post, nothing to score. Just kick the ball around. Huh? Your life will become like that, just kicking around. Huh? Sailing in the ocean without a rudder. Yeah, you just sail like that. But there's no clear direction we're heading for. So we do need some kind of aspirations. Now, let us talk about the aspiration to be a Buddha. Before the Buddha became a Buddha, what was it called? We use the word Bodhisattva, that is in the Pali language, or Bodhisattva, which is a Sanskrit language. The two languages are very related. They are both Indian language. Pali is more of the colloquial language spoken by the Buddha and the region that he was traveling in. And Sanskrit is the religious language of the Hindus, more like religious language. Bodhi means enlightenment. Sattva or satta means being. So it is an enlightenment being. There are two major schools of Buddhism, Theravada, the Pali tradition. The term Bodhisattva appears when the Buddha refers to himself in the previous lives, in the previous rebirths, as well as when he was a young man working towards enlightenment. So that was the context in which Bodhisattva is used. All right? In the Mahayana tradition, they have developed this idea of Bodhisattva a little, taken it a bit more. They encourage everyone to become Bodhisattva and to take Bodhisattva vows. And the Bodhisattva vows is to work for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So it is not only working for your own liberation, but you should also try to work to help other people be liberated. And so therefore, a part of it is you make these vows to work for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Okay, so this is the two different contexts. So sometimes you got like Kuan Yin Bodhisattva and all the other Bodhisattvas that is actually used in the Sanskrit Mahayana tradition. Yeah. And then I must say that it takes a very long period to be fully enlightened. How long does it take for a worldly being to be fully enlightened? Actually, there are many stages that you have to go through. The first stage is after going round and round and round in samsara, one day they come a realization to you. One day you come to a realization that, hey, maybe it is good for us to have a spiritual goal. And the idea of liberation, just a little seed is planted in our mind. Just that realization. The first one, that's the first stage. Then the second stage is coming in touch with Dhamma. Then you begin to hear the Dhamma, it inspires you. The third stage is you meet a Buddha. And you make an aspiration to be a future Buddha. That's the third stage, to be a Buddha. And finally, you have a confirmation from a Buddha that you become a Buddha. And from that moment onwards, you become a Bodhisattva and start practicing the perfections. So which stage are we in now? Not bad, not bad. We're still there, we're still there. But you have not made an aspiration to be a Buddha yet. If you make the aspiration, then through your wanderings, you will be able to meet up with the Buddha, who will confirm you as a future Buddha. And then you start. But even now, you have to start practicing on your perfections. So actually, it takes a very, very long time to realize one's spiritual aspirations. And the word aeons is being used to describe how long to become a Buddha. An aeon, one analogy that was given in the aeon is that if you have a block of granite, of a very strong stone, maybe like 1 mile cube, 1 mile high into the sky, 1 mile long, and in terms of breadth and width. All right? Can you imagine a big block of stone, 1 mile like that, solid without a crack? And then once every century, and it is not affected by wind, by water, by temperature. It doesn't have to wear down. The rock is really solid. So once in every 100 years, somebody takes a very fine silk cloth, and just brush it against the stone. How long does it take for you to completely wear down the whole stone, just brushing like that? How long does it take, you think? That is an analogy that was given to describe an aeon. Actually, to become a Buddha is even longer than an aeon. But I've just used the word aeon down here. You can become a Buddha by the wisdom route. It takes you 4 aeons. Or energy route, 8 aeons. Or faith route, 16 aeons. Our Buddha, Gautama Buddha, has taken it through the wisdom route. And because it's a wisdom route, that's why we got Abhidhamma. Some other Buddhas do not have Abhidhamma. They do not teach Abhidhamma like that. But because our Buddha is from the wisdom route, so we have Abhidhamma. So Gautama Buddha took the wisdom route. Okay? And now, let me just describe a little bit of his process of becoming a Buddha. This was in one of his past life. He was already practicing the Dhamma. There are several versions of this story. One version of the story was that he was practicing, and then he went to this village and saw that there was a big assembly there, and it looks as if everybody is receiving somebody like the king. And he asked the villagers, why are they gathered down there? And they say that the Buddha was coming along that path. And so the word Buddha actually inspires him, because the word Buddha means the awakened one or the enlightened one. So apparently when the Buddha came with the 500 monks, there was it was just after the rain, and there was a patch of water in the path that the Buddha was walking. So Sumedha threw himself on the puddle so that the Buddha do not have to walk in the puddle of water. All right. So that was the version. The other version was that Sumedha was helping to build some road, and he could not finish his work. So there was a hole in the road, and there was a puddle, and so he threw himself. So in both cases, he threw himself across the puddle. And the Dipakara Buddha, the moment he saw this Sumedha down here, he actually went round 3 times as a mark of respect for the Sumedha, and actually could see the potential that Sumedha, Sumedha actually had the aspiration. He made a wish that, may I be a future Buddha. And the Dipakara Buddha, when he looked at Sumedha, he says, yes, I confirm that in future, in years, in the ages to come, you are going to be Gautama Buddha. So he was being confirmed by Dipakara Buddha. And from that time onwards, he started working very hard on his qualities, which you call paramis or perfections. All right? So this is it, you have not met your Buddha yet, but go upstairs, make your aspirations, and that could be the start. You need to plant certain things. For Wesak Day, are you planting good seeds? Are you planting the seeds of happiness? Or are you still planting the seeds of anger, of frustration, of unhappiness? You can plant both sides of seeds. But on Wesak Day, and for the rest of your life, please remember to plant seeds of happiness. And in the Dhamma, there are many advice on how do you plant the seeds of happiness. And as we begin to practice on the qualities, on the perfections, what we call paramis, you plant the seeds of happiness. And also, not only happiness, you plant the seed for your future awakening. All right? So this is the significance of the story of Sumedha. Okay, now we talk about an aspiration. You go before the relics, you want to make an aspirations. What is an aspiration and how is an aspiration expressed? One is you make a strong resolution. You make a resolution in your heart. Okay? If you are aiming for liberation, you make a wish in your heart for liberation. If you want to take the Bodhisattva path, for instance, in order to help other living beings, then you can also plant the same seed as well in your heart. Or whatever aspiration you like to have. Now, aspiration is made repeatedly. You repeat it and wholeheartedly until the aspiration becomes internalized. Because sometimes when we say a certain thing, how many times do you come for a puja in BGF? So you recite. After a while, you recite almost like a parrot. And sometimes you don't even remember or understand what you're saying. Then one day, suddenly one sentence flashed before you. And then you begin to see the sentence that you have never seen before. Right? So sometimes the repetition is quite important. You keep repeating, and through that repetition, sometimes something will just emerge and come out, and you begin to see it's almost like a new light. And until that resolution becomes part of your being, you internalize it until it becomes part of you. Now, you can make an aspirations either privately, you can quietly make your aspirations, or in the presence of other people. In this case, you can make your aspirations before great and noble beings. Yeah? The relics of which is 2 floors above us. What does a repeated aspirations do? Now, everything that we do, we say or we think, causes a change in our environment in relation to the law of karma. We're setting in motion something when it is being expressed either from your speech, your thought, or your action. And when you have the intention, and when you articulate your wish, the mind moves and the energy will move in that direction. So that is why it is important for us to make the aspiration. By making an aspiration through a thought or through a wish, we begin to set in motion a set of causes that will eventually bring the result. That is why if you go to the video, it says that making aspirations before noble ones is a very powerful way of realizing your wish. So don't miss that opportunity. How do we give power to aspiration? We can make wishes. Why are some wishes so powerful, like becoming a Buddha, and why are some aspirations not powerful? How do you give power? How do you boost up the power of your aspirations? Okay. Firstly, is through repeated recitals. When you repeat with the strong affirmations and reinforcement to the mind, it actually strengthens it in the mind through repetition. Yeah? And through repeated recitals, an idea will also gather momentum. Sometimes an idea is just planted. But as it is repeated again and again, it begins to have some kind of a force. And then as it grows in force, it becomes very powerful. It's like beginning with a small snowflake. And that snowflake, or even like a kind of a snowflake, when the snowflake gathers momentum, it becomes very powerful. And when you have a big rush of snow falling in the direction, what do you call that? Avalanche. Yeah. And when you have avalanche, it sweeps away houses, it sweeps away everything, right? Very powerful. But it begins with a small idea that actually grows and gathers momentum. And through repetition also, that is how you become a musician. I'm a musician, and I know how many hours of practice when I first started playing the guitar. How many hours? In fact, I played the guitar when in the university. I played the guitar. I spent more hours playing the guitar than I studied. So you know what kind of student I was. It's a good thing I managed to get through my university. Yeah. But to be a musician, to be skillful in whatever you do, you have to go through many times. In the same manner, if you're a sportsman like Lee Chong-wei, you have to practice and practice, and even if with the coat yoke planted, pasted all over his body, he still has to do it, right, in order to win. Or if you're a craftsman, that's how you have to maintain your skill, through repetition. And that's the same thing with aspiration. You got to repeat the aspiration again and again. The second thing that will give power to your aspiration is the power of merits. So if you make aspirations, if you don't have the merits to back you up, then I'm afraid the aspiration is not very, very strong. You must understand the law of karma. Do you believe in the law of karma? That every action that you perform will have some reaction? Now, if you're going to have some kind of results or some kind of effects from your karma, have you actually given an indication how you want your karma to ripen? Because your good karma will ripen. Maybe it ripens in a manner that in the next life, what do you want to be? You want to be extremely good looking, dazzling, or like a man, you become so handsome that all the women will fall for you. Is that what you want? Oh, you're going to get a real headache after that. You're going to have a problem, and after that you say, maybe you do not want to be so handsome and so attractive. Give me too much trouble. Or you become super, super wealthy. And then when you begin to have children, you find that the children, even when they're growing, begin to get competitive because each of them are thinking how they can get the entire amount of all the wealth you have accumulated. And then when you're no longer there, they fight, they go to court cases, they will sue one another. Right? So these are the ways in which the marriage could ripen. And sometimes when you get all the wealth, you forget about your spiritual ideals and you go off track. Yeah? So it is important that when you have performed good deeds, please tell the good deeds how you want it to ripen. And that is why we always have aspirations, avoiding the company of evil, foolish people, being in the company of good people and having good, skillful teachers, and also remaining always on the path. That is one form of aspirations, but you could always formulate your aspirations. The meditators will talk about aspirations of gaining enlightenment, of complete liberation and all that. Okay, so tell your marriage how you want it to ripen, and the more marriage you perform, the more powerful, your backup power for your turbo becomes stronger. You become a super engine with the support of your marriage. Okay, so the first is through repetition. And in order to internalize it, second is the power of your merits. And of course, the Buddhists, we have a practice of sharing merits, of making aspirations after performing a merit. This is part of our practice. Share merits. Yeah? Sometimes even before meals, now I'm also doing this also, learning how to do this. Before you makan, before you eat, make the offering mentally to the Buddha, to the teachers, and align yourself with the Buddha. Offering of food before you eat first. And then, because also recognizing that the food is actually to nourish your body, may you strengthen your effort for your own spiritual practice and liberation. Okay? Thanking the Buddha, asking for forgiveness. Okay, this is the power of marriage. The second way of making giving power to our aspiration. The third is making aspirations in the presence of great beings. Okay, this is how we give power. When you make aspirations before great beings, it gives the seriousness and weight to your aspiration. It gives the power to your aspiration. Now, just consider a few scenarios. If you make a statement to a friend in jest, just out of fun, what do you call it? They say lawa, is it? Lawa. Just say it just for fun. Is that a very powerful statement? Not that powerful, but sometimes that also can lead us the other way also. So you need also to be careful in jest. But when you make in jest, the power of that statement is, people think, oh, that's a joke. That's not true. Okay? Now, let us say that if you make the wish in an informal assembly, a group of people, and then you say something, you announce, it's not like a formal thing, not like you coming on the stage speaking with a mic, talking to a group of friends, and many people heard you. Do you think that statement itself becomes a bit more powerful? It becomes more powerful because people have heard you. And if you spoke it with earnestness, then they say, hey, you're serious about it. And a few people say, no, but I heard you saying like that at a certain time. Okay? How about in the court of law or in the parliament? Of course, sometimes you might wonder about Malaysian parliament. Well, Malaysian parliament, anything people say will be what you call, it's recorded, They type it in, and you can actually retrieve it by what they call a handset. You can actually hear. You can retrieve all the parliamentary sessions are actually recorded, and you can actually pin down a person who has said something. How about a court of law? When you say something, is it serious or not? It's very serious. You can actually be jailed, and you can be fined for making a wrong statement. So you see, it actually becomes more serious depending on whom you appear. What about making a statement before a king? You go before the king, you go before the Agung and make a statement that I will do a certain thing. It becomes really powerful, right? Because of the presence of the king. How about making it before the Aryas and the Buddhas? So you can see how the scale goes up. In Nepal, there used to be a temple of, as you go up the steps, there are 7 types of animals leading up to the temple of the Deva. The temple, unfortunately, was completely collapsed because of the earthquake. I think the first were the lions, okay? And after the lions were another set of animals. Now, the animal behind, in front, as you go up steps, is 7 times stronger than the lion. And then from that, the third set of animals is 7 times stronger than the one in front. And then as it multiplies, you know how important or how strong the god is. That is actually using some kind of compounding. So it is just like this. When you make aspiration, to the holy ones, it becomes extremely powerful. That is why I say that try not to miss the Relics exhibition. Make the aspiration in your heart, because you are making your wish in front of the Aryas and the Buddhas. Very powerful. And also you need to make the aspiration with sincerity and a clear mind, and a commitment to work on your aspirations, even if you're faced with adverse conditions, and have a clear mind. That's why the quietness is important. The mind is composed as you make the aspiration. Okay? All right, so those are the factors that will actually give strength to your aspiration. Now let me just talk very quickly about the great disciples of the Buddha. To become a leading disciple of the Buddha, you will see the relics of some important disciples of the Buddha. Who are we and what we reap is not only the results of this life, but also accumulated in our past lives. Why are you like what you are? Why am I musically talented? Why am I doing Dhamma work? I think this is not this life. It has also come from my previous life. And to be a leading disciple of the Buddha, you require strong aspirations, strong merits. For instance, the example of Sariputta, Moggallana, Ananda, Anuruddha, Sivali, they become disciples of the Buddha because of making aspirations. You just don't become disciples just like that. You need to make aspirations. Now, if you go to the Relics exhibition, you get a pamphlet. There are some description of the relics that you will see here. One is the relics of Sariputta. If you see the Buddha image, the chotan is on the right side of the Buddha image. That means for us looking at the altar, it's on the left. Sariputta was one of the 2 chief male disciples of the Buddha, renowned for his wisdom, for his teaching. He was able to understand the Dhamma. If the Buddha gave a long teaching, Sariputta is able to condense it. If the Buddha gave a short teaching, Sariputta is able to expand it and giving all the analysis in terms of Abhidhamma. So much so that he was called the general of Dhamma. And his very good friend, the other chief disciple of the Buddha, his name is Moggallana, famous for his psychic power. And he used his psychic power for his teaching method, because he's got that ability. He died at the age of 84, being killed by a rival sect, because it's a very violent death for him, because in his previous birth, he had arranged the murder of his own parents in some previous life. That's why his color is like blue in color. They say like blue lotus. But you will see the relics of Moggallana, if you have the chotan, on your side. If you're standing where you are, it's on the right. 2 great disciples of the Buddha. Then you have also the relics of Mahakashyapa. It is in the small pagoda, stupa, in glass stupa. He is one of the Buddha's principal disciples, because he also convened and presided the first Buddhist council, held 3 months after the Buddha passed away. According to the Zen tradition, Mahakashyapa was the one who received the mind-to-mind transmission of the Dhamma from the Buddha. And that is when the Buddha held a lotus in the hand, also the symbol of BGF, our logo. The Buddha holding the lotus, Ananda, Mahakashyapa smiled. So the 2 of them were communicating mind-to-mind transmission, and that was the start of the Zen tradition. Okay, so that was Mahakashyapa. Ananda, of course, his name is Bliss. He was the Buddha's cousin and personal attendant for the last 25 years of the Buddha's life. So when the Buddha was 55, right up to the age of 80, Ananda was there. He was known for his phenomenal memory, and from him we get our sutras. Okay, Ananda. We have also Rahula. Rahula was the only son of Gautama Buddha and Princess Yashodhara. He was ordained as a novice at the age of 7 when the Buddha visited Kapilavastu. So maybe as a young monk, he was like a bit cheeky. So the Buddha came to him and gave the teaching of the importance of telling the truth in the Rahulo Vada Sutta. I think as a young 7-year-old monk, he was a bit cheeky. So Buddha has to give some analogies for a young boy to understand. And then there is also Sivali. Sivali is we have the relics of Sivali. He's a widely venerated, actually 2 samples of Sivali's relics, who is a patron saint of travel and believed to ward off misfortunes at home, such as fire and theft. And he also practiced the perfection of giving. So Sivali, even when there is a famine, if you walk with his alms bowl will be overflowing with food. That is the nature of his good karma of giving. Okay, now let me just give 2 examples of past life and their aspirations, okay, before we end, all right? First is the past life of Sariputta and Moggallana, the 2 chief disciples. How did they become the 2 chief disciples of the Buddha? Okay? Now, even in their past lives, they were very close friends. So in the final life, during the time of Gautama Buddha, they were very close friends again. So the closeness has gone on from life to life. Huh? The bonding was so strong. Now, in one of the past lives, this is during the time of the Buddha Anumodase. Sariputta renounced to be an ascetic and he had a large following. So he was already quite a good teacher. Whereas Moggallana, who is a good friend, would remain as a householder. Now, Sariputta offered Buddha Anumodase food and a huge canopy of flowers as umbrella that shielded the Buddha for 1 week in meditation. And after the meditation, the Buddha called 2 of his chief disciples to speak to Sariputta. So the presence of the chief disciples, deeply inspired Sariputta in his previous life. When he saw the 2 chief disciples and see how they move in relation to the Buddha, his eyes was just glued on them and said, wow, it's so wonderful to be a chief disciple of the Buddha. How I wish I would aspire to be a chief disciple of one of the future Buddhas. And all the merits that I've accumulated giving this dana to the Buddha, may I dedicate this dana. And all the flowers offering, may I one day become the chief disciple of the Buddha, like what I see before me. And he said, but wait a minute, my friend Moggallana must also be the other chief disciple. So he asked Moggallana to come in. Moggallana also did lots of merits, and 2 of them made the aspiration to be the chief disciples of the same Buddha. That's why they appeared together, 2 kawan-kawan. And inspired by the presence, they make the deep aspiration, supported by the huge body of merits. And that is why, after planting the seed, it gets activated until they become the chief disciples of the Buddha. Yeah? As you visit Sariputta and Moggallana, don't forget. One more. Ananda, the beloved Ananda. Because of him, we get so many things. The Buddha explains so many things because Ananda also gets scolded in the first council for failing to do certain things and for persuading the Buddha to ordain the nuns. So he gets scolded. But we still love Ananda. How did Ananda become the personal attendant for the Buddha for 25 years? Who looked after the Buddha so well? Who arranged the Buddha's program on a kind of daily basis or appointments ahead of time? And even you don't see the Buddha, if the Buddha is somewhere else, you see the face of Ananda, you also feel happy. If Ananda was speak to you, you feel a bit happy. Even if you miss seeing the Buddha. Of course, it's better to see the Buddha. In one of the previous life of Ananda, he was... this was the time of Buddha Padumottara. Ananda at the time was a prince. And he helped his father to put down a rebellion. And the father says, okay, my son, you have helped me to put down a rebellion. Tell me, what is it that you desire? And your wish will be fulfilled. And the desire at that time of Ananda in his previous life is to give dana to the monks during the whole rainy season, 3 months. So so the father, of course, granted his request. And for 3 months, he gave, he was a main sponsor of the rain retreats for Buddha Padumottara. Yeah? And while he was giving the sponsorship as a sponsor of dana, he will go before the Buddha, and then his eyes gets attracted to the Buddha's personal attendant. Buddha's personal attendant, the way he looked after the Buddha, the way he carried himself, Ananda get inspired and he said, oh, how I wish that I myself can be the personal attendant of a Buddha, of a future Buddha. And so at the end of the retreat, Rain's retreat, he made the aspiration, planted the aspiration before the Buddha, and supported with his huge body of merits to be a personal attendant of a future Buddha. And from that day onwards, after he made the aspiration, something have changed inside his mind. From that day onwards, he felt as if he's already carrying the bowl and the extra rope of the future Buddha. So that is the nature of making an aspiration. Suddenly something changed within you. Everything changes. And it changes your outlook, the way you look at things, and the way you even behave. And that is the power of aspirations. Through that kind of repetition, boosted by the power of merits, making before the presence of great beings. So please don't miss this opportunity of making your aspirations before great beings. And in conclusion, aspiration is important because it gives us a clear direction in our life. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that we want in life? What is it that you want? What goal do you have that goes beyond material satisfaction? Because we know that material satisfaction will give us some body of happiness, of course. But it's not something that can really last. Because after a while it becomes stale. And you begin to look for something else. How long can we continue to enjoy our sense organs? When you're young, fine. After you come to a certain age, you begin to see amongst the good fortune of people living long ages. Sometimes when you talk to young people, you say, oh, age of 60. They say, oh, age of 60. Oh, they never thought that they can ever be 60. Actually, it's good fortune to be good. If you live long enough, you touch 60, whether you want it or not. So don't be so shocked. So some people, they live as they become much older, many things they cannot enjoy anymore, even with all the wealth that you have. So how long do you want to feed your senses? Should you not make the aspiration as well to achieve the highest bliss and aspire for emancipation? And of course, to do that, we need to have a big body of merits to help in the unfolding of events in line with our aspirations. So making aspirations is one of them, but we should also generate merits in order for the ripening of our aspiration. Okay? So with that, I hope that everybody becomes very clear about aspirations, and then you make kind of an aspirations within your own heart. Don't just think about yourself, but also think about how to bring happiness into you. You can make an aspirations for emancipation, and if you like, also to bring bliss and happiness to help other people to be happy, to create a better world. Okay? So with that, I will end my talk, and good health and peace to you, all of you.
Thank you, Dato, for that enlightening speech. So, brothers and sisters in the Dharma, you have been given a talk on making the aspirations.